It's been a bit of a tough week for me here in the family offices. Last week, for the very first time on the Early Years Weekly, we got our very first thumbs down. I've been thinking about it all week, losing sleep. What could it be? Why? What did we do wrong?
It's fine and back.
Oh.
So we'll start with the news regarding the UK's child obesity targets. Now, the outgoing Chief Medical Officer, Dame Sally Davies, has released a report that states we are nowhere near our target to halve childhood obesity by 2030. In fact, it's currently sitting at a rate where 6 children out of a class of about the average kind of 30 that are obese, with a further 4 overweight, which is a really, really shocking figure.
Yeah, it's definitely not good enough. And I think it's interesting that she's kind of saying that it seems like we're not actually going in the right direction with this. She's made some interesting recommendations. She's kind of talked about a need for like wide scale change and a kind of an innovative approach to how we solve this. She's talked about some things that have been mentioned before, like extending soft drinks levies to sweetened milk-based drinks. Obviously more investment in making sure that children have access to a healthy, active environment, that we need more rigorous standards in schools and nurseries, but also some really interesting things like that we need to make sure children are free from all marketing and incentives. And she's gone as far as to say that she wants all public transport to ban eating and drinking apart from fresh water and breastfeeding, with the idea that if children are exposed to seeing other people eating these unhealthy foods all the time, it can kind of make a change in them. June O'Sullivan, the head of LEAF, has said it's unacceptable that some nurseries are inadvertently adding to the problem by serving meals dangerously high in fat, salt and sugar, and we therefore need a radical wake-up. So there's definitely a lot that we as a sector could be doing.
But I think it's difficult because, as you say, it's inadvertently, right? Mm-hmm. It's not these people aren't doing it on purpose. It's a kind of, it's something that everyone needs educating on, because without that education, that base level of education, it's not gonna change. People need to know why these things are unhealthy and how to better their practices.
Absolutely. I think it's just about making sure that, we're not adding to the problem, that we're actually going against it. I mean, we had the OECD news last week that they reckon that by 2030, that number is actually going to go up to 1.3 million children in the UK. There's a good chance to plug our fantastic nutrition guide with Lindsay Gilbert from Food Talk. We talked all about kind of how to get nutrition right in nurseries and early years settings, how to get a great kind of mealtime environment, just a bunch of other useful stuff on portions so that you make sure that you're feeding your children the right stuff. So the second story of the week is that the government want to introduce neonatal leave for parents who have a baby born prematurely. Now currently there's pretty much no flexibility for parents who have a baby who's born prematurely, and what the government are proposing is that for every week that a child is in neonatal care, the parents will get 1 week of paid leave.
A pretty big deal considering that 1 in 7 babies, that's more than 100,000 families a year in the UK that have a child that needs this neonatal care. And looking at the research, it's clear that parents were having to take annual leave just so that they could spend that time with their child. And of course that just seems absolutely crazy considering the stress that those parents are under with a child, often in hospital, and that they then have to worry on top of that about maintaining, their job when really, it all boils down to the fact that if the parents are there and they can be there for their child at such a crucial time and a scary and dangerous time, that it does improve the child's health and the child gains weight faster, less anxiety, and actually is out of hospital earlier than if the parents aren't around. So it makes complete sense that they are, pushing for this paid leave, so that the parents don't need to worry on top of the stress they already have. So for those of you interested in finding out a little bit more about pedagogy around the world and not just in the UK, there's been a new inspection framework released in the Canadian region of British Columbia. We've had a little read on that.
I think it's widely been really well received. I've seen kind of early years experts from around the world saying that it's a really great approach to pedagogy. They're talking about scaling up the focus from birth to 5 to from birth to 8. So you have a little bit more continuity throughout the early years. They talk about the learning as a holistic experience and about all the different things that go into that. I just think it's a long document, don't get me wrong, it's 115 pages, but if you're interested in this sort of stuff, it's definitely worth giving a skim because they have a great approach towards pedagogy, towards, I think, particularly inclusivity and about how the relationship between young children and the communities that they're in.
So that's the news for this week. Thank you very much for watching Early Years Weekly number 7. As you heard at the start of this, Matt's ego took a little bit of a beating last week, but there is something you can do to change that. Please like and subscribe to receive all future Early Years Weeklies.
Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.